Welcome to my channel, Love, Light, Liberty, and I'm your host, Rox Light. Today is Sunday, February 1st, and we are full moon in Leo tonight. And of course, we are currently in Aquarius season, and the full moon will always be in your opposite zodiac sign. So the opposite of Aquarius is Leo. The Native Americans called tonight's full moon the snow moon. It's called the snow moon because February is the month that has the most recorded snowfall each year. The Chinese New Year starts on the new moon, which is February 17th, and also on that day will be a solar eclipse. Tonight I'm going to go over the full moon and the new moon cards from the Moonology Manifestation Oracle card deck. And then it's going to be the mystery show and tell item for February. And then finally, the spooky ghost story. I hope everybody sits back, takes some time for yourself, get yourself a cup of coffee or tea, and enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to Show and Tell Stories, Episode 2. Today is February 1st, 2026, and our full moon is in Leo tonight. Before we get started, let's light some candles, light some incense, ring the bell, clearing our space here, and then we'll get started, okay? So I decided to go with pink candles today. Got this cute candle. They come in a pack of 2 from Target. It's just so cute. Little glass pink heart, and then with the pink tea lights that you can put in it. I guess I'll put it right there. I don't know. All right, and we'll do the incense. Yeah. Well, I think it burned out already. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So I'm going to be using the Moonology Manifestation Oracle deck, like I told you last month. No, I haven't done the unboxing of it yet. I still am going to. It's on my to-do list. So we are full moon in Leo, and this card says, can you see it? Let's go wild. Usually I shoot the video more like in the daytime. Oh, maybe you can see it right there. It has a lion on it for Leo. When I shoot the video in the day, the lighting is just a little bit different versus at night. So bear with me. All right, let's see. I think we're on page 88. Pretty good alignment number. All right. There are times when your oh, I forgot to ring the bell, you guys. Let me do that. Even though you can't hear it, still gonna do it. It's my routine. I did it over the microphone. Maybe you can hear it. All right. Now we can start. There are times when your best bet in manifesting and in life is to throw all your cards up in the air, so to speak, and see how they fall.
As tempting as it might be to control a situation, you'll be better off now if you just release and go a little while. You'll get an answer to your question soon as you might as you enjoy the ride. The unexpected thing is that having fun is one of the most powerful ways of manifesting your desires. Distance yourself from arrogant people. Manifesting balance is find a balance between having a great time and attending to the people who need you. Manifesting mindset, worrying about something or someone triggers the law of attraction as much as positive thoughts. So focus on the positive. A manifesting ritual for unleashing your wilder side is add cinnamon essential oil to your diffuser, rest in a comfortable position and gently close your eyes, and call upon your higher powers for help. Like I said, I'm not going to say in this deck what they asking everybody to call upon because, like I said, that's very individualized for each and every single one of us. So only you know what who your higher power is that you go to for help. Manifest affirmation is I live in the present and release all past pain. And when you manifest your magic, the best time to work your magic is when the moon is in Leo on a Sunday. Well, today is still Sunday. The full moon in Leo takes place when the sun is in Aquarius, which we're right now, we're in Aquarius season, and the moon is in Leo, which is for today. So it sounds like maybe someone's feeling uptight or stressed out, and maybe you need to do something sporadic. Make a sporadic decision, something out of your normal routine, change it up a bit. And that kind of sporadic decision can give you like breath of fresh air and make you feel more wild and free. I always talk about getting caught up in the rat race all the time, and we need to step out of that and just go enjoy yourself and do something that you enjoy, not what somebody else wants you to do or what they enjoy. This is about you. It's not about anybody else. Sometimes we need to take time to do something for ourselves. And not everything has to be crazy. It's just like saying, just maybe go out of your comfort zone and go do something other than your normal day to day things so you feel free. You don't want to feel trapped. You don't want to feel the hamster on the wheel. You don't want to feel like that. So that's what I have to say about that. And okay, and then manifestation affirmation. I live in the present, release all past. Well, we can live in the past, we can live in the present, or we can live in the future. If we're living in the past or the future, we're not in the here and the now and enjoying the very moment of life. Think of it as a road trip. Are you going to just keep talking about where you had come from and, as you're driving and you just miss everything in the present? Or are you going to talk about where you're going and you're just not even paying attention again in the present? So it's up to you whether you want to decide to live in the past, the here and the now, which is the present, or the future. And yeah, maybe we can live all three at once as well and experience it all together as once. But just don't get stuck on one thing. That's for sure. Okay, well, I hope that helps. Let's move on to the new moon card, which is going to be February 17th. One moment. So, our new moon card is New Moon in Aquarius. Open up to change. Can you see it right there? Open up to change. So, February 17th, sorry, is going to be the Chinese New Year. Also, a solar eclipse is going to happen that day. So, there is some big changes happening on the new moon in Aquarius this year. So, big changes are forecast, but you need to let events unfold with as little steering as possible from you. Sometimes you just need a to take a bit of space from a person or a situation. If you know you've been too emotional about someone or something, this card offers you the chance to cool things down. A rational, even slightly aloof assessment of your current circumstances is called for. Allow for things to develop. Try to think of your situation from a different angle. So, manifesting focus is this card is especially a good sign for matters related to friends, networks, a wish coming true, science, technology, or online dating. The manifesting mindset is be yourself. Independence doesn't have to mean loneliness. A group of people rather than one person may be the ones to help you. Manifesting tips for detachment. Um, of course, call upon your higher powers for guidance, and it says to light a candle, preferably silver. Can't say that I see too many silver candles around, but I'm sure they're out there. Okay. Manifestation affirmation. This is only for me. It's safe to be me, and I'm sorry, it says there is only one me. It's safe to be me, and I love me. Talk nice to yourself always. When you look in the mirror, always talk nice to yourself. When to manifest your magic, the best time to work your magic is when the moon is in Aquarius on a Saturday. So the new moon in Aquarius takes place when the sun and the moon are in the same degree in Aquarius. It knows that humanity is worth saving. So Aquarius is an air sign, so they think logically, kind of head over heart, and they do what makes sense. But they have a problem overthinking, and that's not what you want to do either. So the first sentence kind of struck me with my mind pictured something when I read that sentence. Let me read it again. Big changes are forecast, but you need to let events unfold with a little steering as possible from you. So I was seeing like a ship on the ocean, captain of the ship. And destiny is like the wind in the sail. So when it's your destiny and the winds come, you don't have to be excessively steering because the wind is taking the ship naturally and on its own. It's going with destiny, the wind. So it says open up for change. So just think of you're on the ocean and it's just going to take you where you need to go automatically. Your destiny is your destiny, belongs to you, and it's your path, and it's not for anyone else. So don't forget that. All right. And what's meant to be is meant to be, and no one can really mess with your destiny. I remember reading an article one time about this runner. It was back maybe in the 50s or something like that, but someone stole his shoes before the race. And I suppose they wanted him just to forfeit and give up the race. But he found some shoes in the trash. They weren't even a matching pair, they weren't even his size. He had two different shoes on, he put them on, and he ran the race. And guess what? He still won because it was his destiny to win, whether someone sabotaged him or not. So there are people out there that want to sabotage your life purpose and your path, but they're not going to get anywhere because you're still going to win that race because that was meant for you. And so if you feel like there's things that are coming against you and difficult things are happening, you're still going to win the race. Don't forget that. All right. I hope that helps. All right. I'm going to move on to our show and tell for the month of February. And by the way, February 17th, happy birthday, Andrew. Okay. It's show and tell time. So this month I found something that I was going to show you guys, and it is a piece of art that I bought off of a young man that was going to college, and one day I was gonna go to a store, and outside the store, he had all his art on the sidewalk, and he was selling it to help support his way through college. So some of his art was just, pictures that are drawn from normal things, like characters or I think I got a Yoda from for my son, and then my daughter got some kind of anime character. But one piece of his art, he said, "By the way, this piece I made up with my own mind and it's my own artistic creation." And I said, "Well, that's the one I want then." And so I know it's probably hard to see. Let me see. Here we go. It is an astronaut reaching his hand out in space towards a clock, and then it says time on here. And I asked him, I said, when you made this, what was going on in your mind at the time you were drawing that? What does that mean to you, this picture? And he said, time is precious. And I said, okay, isn't that true? And he said also the clock was inspiration because his brother had a clock tattoo on his body, and he was that's the start of his inspiration was his brother's tattoo. But I thought that was really interesting, and I'll probably put it in a different frame. But I'm definitely gonna hang this on the wall because I do like space and astronauts, and it just kind of fit me to have that anyway. So I thought I'd share that with you. Also, let me put this behind here so. Wait, it's so dark already. It just like everything looks dark. Anyway, also I got a new book, a ghost book, to read for ghost stories. This one was from Half Price Books. I got. It's called On the Road with Everyday Paranormal Chasing Texas Style Ghosts. These two ghost hunters are on TV, Brad and Barry. I don't know if I'm going to say his right, Kling, but they're from San Antonio. Pay $12.99 for this book. And it seemed to have some really good ghost stories. These are the guys that want to like prove it. Like they want to have proof and evidence, and that's what they use with their meters and all that. Let me read the back up. After 20 years of private research, Brad and Barry Kling founded the paranormal investigation group Everyday Paranormal, located in San Antonio. The Kling brothers have starred in the Discovery Channel series Ghost Lab, where their radical approach has had far reaching effects on the paranormal community. So, yeah, so I'll be reading to you several stories out of this book, and hopefully you get to enjoy that as well as me, because I'm enjoying it as you guys get to enjoy it. So, all right, stay tuned for the spooky ghost story from my new book.
Chapter 17, School for Scares. Barry, being a teacher in the local public school system and having a wife who taught in the same district, meant the word soon got around in the education department about what I did as a hobby. Most people were intrigued when they found out and either asked me to tell them more about ghost hunting or struck up conversations with me about the paranormal activity they or someone else they knew had experienced. If their accounts were accurate, a surprising number of our area schools were haunted. In fact, several of my colleagues told me that the building I was teaching in had its own ghosts. At this point, the building housed administrative offices and classrooms equipped for children with special needs, but it had been an elementary school at one time, and some staff members were convinced that the ghosts of former students were still in attendance, responsible for the number of weird occurrences like flickering lights, mysterious voices chatting in one of the boys' bathrooms when it's empty, and rocking chairs moving when no one was sitting in them. Heather had recently started working in the building on weeknights as a counselor. And the topic, she wanted to talk about the topic It Goes With Me. A scholarly 50 something who swore she had no paranormal experiences before taking this job. She wasn't the sort of person prone to superstition or hysteria, but she had encountered two things recently that she couldn't explain or forget easily. The first happened around 9 o'clock at night. I was the only one here, she told me. I almost always the last to leave, so I was going through the building to make sure all the doors were locked, like I usually do. I was walking down one of the hallways and I saw an older woman ahead of me, maybe 20 or 30 feet away, walking too. And I had never seen her before and I couldn't figure out what she was doing. So I called to her, "Ma'am, can I help you? Ma'am." She kept walking as if she hadn't heard me. Then she turned into a room, and I caught up and I walked in behind her. I know this sounds crazy, but all the lights were off in the room, and there was no one in there but me. Heather was generally unnerved by the apparition. The woman wasn't transparent, she said. She looked and acted just like a real person until she disappeared. I assured her that wasn't uncommon to mistake a ghost for a living human being. Brad and I had heard lots of similar descriptions about spirits that seemed to be flesh and blood, men, women, children, based on their physical appearance, movements, and actions. As you know by now, not every ghost floats down a staircase or drifts out of a wall as a pearly white form you can see through. The form taken seems to depend on the area's EMF levels, environmental conditions like humidity, and to some extent either the ability or the whim of the individual ghost. I also told Heather that although I hadn't experienced any paranormal activity while I was at work, some of the students had exhibited odd reactions to certain parts of the building. For example, one little boy who I taught was autistic and he had flat out refused to use the boys' bathroom where staff members claimed to hear disembodied voices and feel invisible hands tugging on their sleeves and pant legs. The student couldn't or wouldn't articulate what he disliked so much about the room, but he would panic every time anybody tried to take him near it. He had no aversion to any other room in the school. What I heard, from what I hear, the student knew. Did the student know stories about the bathroom? Had someone fueled his fears of the room by warning him that it was haunted? I couldn't say for sure, but I doubt it. And if not, his aversion to the bathroom was all the more intriguing. What is possible that an autistic person might be sensitive to paranormal stimuli that the rest of us would miss? The student actually hearing, seeing, feeling, or sensing a presence that I couldn't pick up. If his brain and senses were hardwired differently from the average person's, did it stand to reason that it might be better tuned receptors for paranormal activity? And was it possible that ghosts sensed this and could communicate with him because of it? Some people believe in the concept of indigo children whose kids are born with especially keen sensory perception, which enables them to see ghosts, read minds, or simply are are in tune with other people's feelings much more than the average child. But there's no way to test any theories that I have on a link between autism and the receptibility to paranormal input without exposing this student to a room that would upset him. So divulging into that area further was without the question. Was out of the question. Heather's second paranormal encounter had occurred during her unusual nighttime lockup, and a security camera caught the whole incident. Heather was walking down one of the two hallways that ran the length of the building when something caught her eye at a point halfway along, where the door was set back into a shallow alcove. When she reviewed the security camera footage, she could see what had drawn her attention. The door was open a crack, That's weird, she muttered to herself, peering at it curiously. That's supposed to be closed. A small wheeled cart of the type teachers use to haul books and audiovisual supplies was standing against the wall nearby. Heather grabbed both sides of the cart and steered it to the alcove, and so it pushed the door shut. The second the cart touched the door, something or someone on the other side growled loudly and angrily. You can hear it distinctly on the videotape. Watching the video was more hilarious than scary. The moment she heard the snarl, Heather let go of the cart and staggered backwards, her arms flailing. She nearly lost her balance and spun around and started racing down the hallway from the noise as fast as she could. I couldn't blame her. It did sound ominous. We were eager to explore the unexplained going on at work with the everyday paranormal investigation. I talked it over with Brad, and we got permission from the superintendent of the district to camp out in the building for the night in the late spring 2008. We combed the inside of the room where Heather had heard the growl, as well as the surrounding area. We opened and closed the door repeatedly. We experimented by pushing, pulling, and turning the cart to see if we could recreate the sound, but we never found any logical non paranormal source that would have generated a growl like the one Heather heard. Nor did our investigation yield anything to rival the menacing sounds behind the door. However, when we reviewed our evidence the next day, we got some data that correlated with the reports of activity in the bathroom that had spooked the student so immensely. Brad was talking aloud, trying to prompt some activity. Hey, if you're here, flush the toilet, make the faucets turn on, slam one of the stall doors. One of the clearest EVPs we ever managed to record on video, a high pitched voice from what was undoubtedly a little boy said, I'm not back there. We met with some of the staff for a review and played the video recordings for them. They were stunned. Even the most skeptical among them said we had convinced them that there was just might be some truth to the creepy stories that we heard for so long about the workplace. The superintendent was with no exception. When she heard the EVP, her eyes grew wide. What the heck was that? She asked. The contacts we made through the first school investigation opened the door for investigations of several other schools nearby. The most fascinating of them was Cibolo's Weiderstein Elementary, where my wife worked, one of the oldest schools in the district. It was the focus of numerous ghost sightings. The custodial staff claimed chairs moved back and forth on their own, disembodied voices echoed down the hall, and lockers slammed when nobody was near them. Construction on the building started back in 1955 and concluded 2 years later when the school opened as a junior high. It was renamed, yada yada yada. I'm not going to keep details on that. In 1969, it became an elementary school, teaching kindergarten through fifth grade, yada yada yada. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty of this here. Contractors were still putting the finishing touches on the brand new elementary, but the walls in the old school had already been stripped of student artwork, books, and furnishings, packed up and shipped out by the time we showed up. Initially, the day after the last students walked out the door. The building would later be rededicated as Learning Center, but when we arrived, it had a foreboding feeling common with abandoned buildings. We were planning on low-key investigation, but Brad and myself and other team members of Everyday Paranormal and Jenny, the school librarian, who happened to be a friend of ours, she had worked in the building for years and had often heard of odd noises when she stayed after hours. So she was curious to see what we might find for evidence. So I rested up all day so I could stay up all night for the investigation. Um, She told us enthusiastically as we made our way through the halls and classrooms, taking baseline readings and setting up what we call gunshot sweep, where we spread out and monitor equipment in a wider, more random area rather than just straight line. Line up in a linear sweep. We left recordings running in various points and moved on to the library. We were sitting there talking, telling Jenny about our plans for the upcoming Folk Life Festival when we heard an unexpected noise, the distinctive click clank of high heels walking down the hallway towards us. Who's that? Jenny wondered. No one else is supposed to be in the building. We waited, our eyes fixed on the door. The sound drew closer, assuming the school official had dropped by to check up on us and would appear at any moment. Instead, the noise passed and faded out down the hall. All four of us jumped up and hurried over to peer through the glass paneled doors. The corridor was dark and deserted. Brad and I split up and each taking a portion of the hallway. Next, we checked the empty classrooms, but there was no one there. A while later, Brad was investigating the hallway in the original school wing. We decided to try some serious provoking to see what would rise anything out of that. It was all lined up with old lockers, and so he could. He took his fist and he banged on the lockers. Bam, bam, bam. The sound um, bounced off the walls. "You get out here!" Brad yelled. And to our astonishment, something growled at him. We all heard it clearly. "Oh, beep," Brad said. "Whoa! Look at the time," Jenny explained. "I really need to get home, check on my kids." Gone was her plans to stay up and burn the midnight oil with us. Um, she had simply headed out of the building and told us, "You all just lock up when you're done." Were the two growls related? Were they necessarily a sign of a sinister or even demonic presence in the two schools, or can only guess, bearing in mind that interpreting paranormal actions through the lens of a normal humans might mislead us. From our experience, a shove in the small of the back isn't necessarily a hostile gesture. None of the children's giggles necessarily benign, a benign friendly message from the spirit world. We conducted sessions in numerous areas outside of the school and collected enough evidence to just suggest that the place was indeed experiencing paranormal activity. I left my audio recorder in one of the hallways and picked up a loud, booming EVP and someone banging on the lockers. We double checked to make sure it hadn't picked up the noise when Brad was pounding um, in the building, but the two sounds occurred hours apart. Even eerier was the on sing song chant we caught. It sounded like a little girl reciting, "One plus one is two." We were in the three halls away, more than 50 yards from where the recorder had picked up the noise. And so the words were clear as day as the little kid's ghost was wandering through the halls singing. EVPs of children's voices have always seemed to be the creepiest to me, and one that sounded as it had lifted it had been lifted from a wholesale from a horror movie soundtrack. I still get chills when I replay it. We found out later a little girl had died of an illness decades earlier while she was a student there. Not surprising, even given many years of the school was in operation and the countless pupils it served. Though she hadn't died in the building itself, a tree had been planted on the school grounds in her honor and it grew there. Was the ghost linked to the tragedy? Was it an unrelated spirit? We can assume that it definitely was the ghost of a little girl based on the tenor of her voice that we caught. Maybe school and like other buildings that witness intense emotion and strong memories tend to be magnets for paranormal activities where the energy levels are right. Of course, there's also the possibility that children are sensitive to ghosts, and other certain ghosts are drawn to their energy and open mindedness. One thing's for sure, when Brad and I were kids, we can bet we would have loved the idea of attending a haunted elementary school. Okay, well, there we go. We have some proof. That's one thing people always are looking for is proof, because they're like, am I hearing it? Is it just a story? Um, and they're confused. And proof is proof. Audio recordings don't lie. Or a growl is your ears can hear it. You don't even need audio recording for that. The banging on the lockers, you can hear it. You don't need audio recording for that either. Um, I worked at a school. I told you guys last year on one of my ghost stories that I said was my own, but it was built on Indian burial grounds. So, I mean, to me, then when I found that out, it made sense that, yeah, there was a reason why that school was haunted. Um, Also, I think ley lines have different energy on those, and if buildings are on a ley line, I believe that would open up portals for paranormal activity. Anyway, I hope that was a fun story. I think I enjoyed it because there was a lot of things going on in that school and schools besides just one thing. All right, well, hope you guys have a nice full moon tonight. Go outside and take a look at it if you can, if it's there. It might be cloudy, it might be clear, wherever you're at in the world. And I'll see you next month in March. Everybody, take care.